Hi, welcome to Fairfield University Art Museum's De-Stressing with Drawing. My name is Kate Wellen, and I am a museum educator at the Fairfield University Art Museum. Now, the purpose of this De-Stressing with Drawing workshop is to give you a chance to take a break, to relax and unwind during what is definitely a hectic time, not only on Fairfield University's campus with finals going on, but just the holiday season in general. I guess just busy life also. So today we're going to do some fun, relaxing activities that are not meant for you to judge yourself or your drawing abilities. Anyone can participate, and I'm going to show you some of the materials I have, and you will see what a collection looks like here. You can use any kind of pencils, so anyone can participate in this. I've got a regular pencil, some number 2 pencils, a Fairfield University Art Museum pencil, and a collection of Sharpies. I'm going to be drawing in Sharpie today because it shows up best on the camera so you can see what I'm doing. And you can also see that I'm not going to be erasing because I want you to think of these drawings as fun doodling exercises while also looking at something and closely observing it. So I don't want you to worry too much about your mistakes, but more just kind of go with the process and go with the flow. So I actually started warming up while I was waiting to start talking, and I'll tip my camera down even more. And you can see I was just drawing a regular old paintbrush. It's just a chip brush, nothing fancy, but I thought the lines were really interesting. So for this workshop, you will need objects to draw. So I'll give you a couple minutes to look around your desk. You can draw a pencil, you can draw your hand, you can take off your watch, draw your watch. I also have a cup that I use for mixing paint and water. I have a light bulb. Anything with interesting lines and shapes will be fun to draw. I have a old paint tube that has the cap sealed on and has some really interesting lines and just the way it's crinkled because I've used it so much. So, and I have a stack of just regular paper. You can use line paper, you can use copy paper, you can use really nice drawing paper, whatever you have available. So I'm going to leave my camera tip down. I also have, show you one more thing, I have a beautiful bouquet of flowers that I also might be using, but you can get by with just about anything. So collect something right off your desk and or your room or wherever you are. And I'm going to tip down my camera for the rest of the time until the end. And we're going to start our first drawing exercise. So I'm going to move this piece out of the way, get myself a fresh piece of paper, not using fancy paper. This is really just for anyone to be able to do to relax. And one of the best ways to really slow down and pause is to really look at something and not just quickly glance at it, but to really take a minute to notice the shapes and lines that make up the object. So I'm going to stick with my paintbrush for now. And I'm noticing these great lines. The paintbrush hairs curve up. There's a little bit of rust. There's some indents here. There are also smudges. You can see it's rough here with the wood where it's hasn't been sanded away. It curves around, so there's flat surfaces, there's straight lines, there are curved lines, there are numbers, there's little indents. There's a lot going on, even though it's just a regular paintbrush. And that's what I'm looking for. Everyday items that have, when you pause and you look at them, have something interesting to draw. So the first exercise we're going to do, I'm going to call it a continuous line drawing. I'm going to put my pen, so you can see what I'm doing, on the paper, and I'm not going to pick it up. I'm just going to draw. I'm just going to pick a place to start. I'm going to decide I'm starting right here, and I'm just going to let my pen go. And I'm just going to use my eye and pen work together My eye is just going to be looking at the line and kind of following the outline, the contour of this paintbrush. I'm not going to worry about all the details this time because we're going to get to that later. This is just to warm up my hand and my eyes and get them just to slow down, pause, and make their way around the outline of this paintbrush. So I decided I'm starting here, drop in my pen, and I'm going to take it slow. And if you feel like you need to warm up, you have a little bit of pent up stress and you want to work a little faster, this continuous line, you're not picking up your pencil, you're not picking up your pen. You're just going with the flow of the object. And you can go back over the line as long as you're not picking up your pen. You're just noticing the lines, the outline, the contour in one continuous line. You're not worried about making mistakes. Getting to the end of the brush, go back down, over. Now I'm going to go down to the handle. And I'm sure you're noticing that you are moving your eyes between the paper and the object you're drawing. And here I have just a simple outline of my paintbrush. It's not perfect, but I warmed up my hand and my eye a little. Now, the next one I'm going to do, look at a new piece of paper, is the same contour drawing, the same continuous line. I'm going to drop my pen down and just go. But this time I'm going to move my paper where I'm not looking at it, looking only at the object and not at my paper. And this is going to be a blind in that you're not looking at your drawing. You're not worried about what it looks like, just what you're seeing. And your eyes and hands are hopefully, or drawing hands are hopefully working together. And you'll be surprised what you get. It might look nothing like your object. I'm going to put my pen down on my paper. If you saw my face, which you can't right now, because my camera is tipped down, you'll notice that you would notice that I'm not looking at my paper. It's over my shoulder. I can't see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see the mess I'm making. I'm just going to be drawing with my pen and my eyes, but not looking at my paper. So I'm starting and I'm taking it slow because I'm noticing that there's like a little bump right here. I'm going up around that. I'm actually gonna make it easier for me not to look and use this finger to guide my eyes. So I'm not tempted to look at my paper because it's kind of at a weird angle and my eyes are following this hand and not the hand that's drawing. So now I'm going up, I'm not lifting my pen off the paper. I'm not worried about it looking like the paintbrush. Just looking at the paintbrush, an everyday object, not super exciting, usually, although it is very useful for painting. I'm just noticing the lines. Coming down here and I see that there's a bristle that's kind of sticking out. Another one that's sticking out there. And I'm going to come back down and do the other side of the paintbrush. I'm noticing that I can see an indent going in here. Another one there. Going straight down. and then some more lines. I apologize if you can hear my dog barking. Sorry. Go around there and down around the handle. And I know that it dips in. It comes down a little bit and goes to a point. And then comes back around and hopefully meets up with the place I started. Okay. Oh, well, as you'll see, it does not look exactly like a paintbrush, but that's not the point. The point is to slow down, take your time with your eyes, not worried about how it's going to look and how it's going to turn out, but really notice the lines and the shapes, because drawing is really about breaking objects down into shapes and putting them back together to create a drawing of an object. So here we are. I didn't make it around to match up, but I have the general sense of my paintbrush laying on the table with the bristles sticking up. I'm going to do another one. Blind contour again. I'm going to just do it right on that same piece of paper. Since I'm not really worried about how it's going to turn out, I'm going to just look at this cup, a regular old red Solo cup, and I'm going to think about drawing the outline of it. And I'm going to notice that there's a lip that comes under, comes down, there's indents, comes down at the side, indents in, around, and then up the other side. So here I go. I'm positioning myself so I'm not tempted to look. Actually, I might get a new piece of paper because it's just gonna overlap in for. So a simple shape, you wouldn't think that's that exciting to draw, but it has some great lines, indents, and shadows, but we're not worried about shadows right now anyway. But okay, I'm starting just at the top, putting my pen down. And again, I'm using my eyes to trace the outline. And I'm not going to lift my pen. I'm not worried about mistakes. I'm really just looking at, what does this object look like? Forget about what it is, that it's a cup. Right now, I'm just worried about the lines and the shapes as they come together. See, it kind of indents here just a little bit, comes back out. Bottom scoops around. There's another indent. Goes back up, 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 and then over the loop and around the edge. All the way around. Got, hopefully, the sense of the object. So here you go. Like I said, I'm not judging myself based on how it looks. It's really about slowing down and looking and seeing the object. You can see I started here. I started at the top. I dropped down with my little lip on the cup. I thought about how there's that groove and indent here. And it comes back around the bottom indents, the scoop around all the way up, and then my opening at the top. So these drawings are great. You don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to worry about how they turn out. It's just about slowing down, looking at the lines, and relaxing. So if you'd like to do a couple more of these with different objects, I might do one more just to warm up a little bit more, and then we can move on to some more observational drawing that's going to be close up and a little more detailed, and you will be looking at the paper. But this exercise I like just to slow down, to look, and I guess I've said slow down quite a few times now, so probably get the gist that we're not worried about how things look, but more just the process, just being present and not worrying about the end result. So I'm going to look at my smashed up paint tube, and this one's great because it has like a nice movement to it, even though it's, turn my paper this way. And I am going to start at the curve, and here I'll notice the cap and the curve, and I notice that there's lots of ridges here. So I'm going to go along those ridges, and then I'm going to think about the cap going in, all the goopy, dried up paint, all bumpy, and then swoop down and go around the rest. So I am going to start at the top. I'm looking right here, and I am going to go down around the cap into the ridges, up and around. Okay, now I'm at the dried up paint, and now I'm going, oops, bumped my pen, down the neck of it, and starting at the body of the tube, kind of went up to get the sense of that shape. Now I'm looking that it's indented here. There's a wavy line here where it's been smashed in. It's creased here, gets really thin and then pinched here. So I've got that pinched feel, and then where it pinches, it juts up and there's a fold. So I'm looking at the fold of that line, creating the fold, and then I'm gonna go back down and just make that straight line all the way to the end. I see that the fold here lifts up, so I'm lifting up, bringing my pen back down, and then following the wave where it's pinched down here and up, around to the curve up to the neck, the goopy paint, and the ridges of the cap. And ta-da, I guess if you use a toothpaste tube, a paint tube, that same feeling, my smashed up tube. Does not look like what I'm drawing, but that's not the point. The point is just to look at the object, slow down, and be present with what you're drawing. Now, I have done lots of these drawings, and sometimes they turn out looking more like the object than these, most of the time not. And like I said, it's not the point of the exercise. So if you want to just stick with those and keep doing either contour drawings where you can see what you're looking at and your paper, or blind contour where you're looking just at the object and not your paper, and just keep doing those, feel free to do that. That's a great way to unwind and not judge what you're doing. Just really slowing down, taking a moment to breathe, a break from whatever you were doing, and just a different way to slow down. I am going to move on to drawing something close up. I'm going to draw my flowers, I think. So I'm going to bring my camera up just so you can see what I'm looking at. Move some of the stuff over here. I am going to be looking at this flower right here because it's standing nice and straight. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do just a continuous line drawing, just like we did before, but also I'm going to be looking at my paper. I'm going to be looking at both the flower and my paper to get started, because I feel like I've done a couple of those blind contours now, and I kind of want to look at my paper. And then after I do that first one, where I'm looking at my paper, I'm gonna go in for a close-up drawing. And that will be our last exercise, the close-up. So first I'm gonna do just a contour drawing again. This one I might include a little more detail than the first ones I was doing. So I'm gonna tip my paper down here. And you saw I was looking at which flower I was looking at. So I'm not gonna lift my pen up. So once again, there's going to be overlapping lines. It's not gonna be perfect, but that's not what I'm going for here. I really just wanna get a feel for this flower. And I think I'm gonna start with one petal I see here curved in the middle. And then there's like little ones all around it. And then a big one that comes up. And then I'm gonna go with that petal. I'm just gonna start there and think more about the overall shape. The leaves overlap, so not going to be able to get every one in this. I'm just thinking about the shapes that I see here. This petal is behind these two, so I'm getting this shape here. I'm gonna come back down all the way to the middle, do this little tiny petal sticking up. Pointy tipped oval. There are lots of layers in these flowers, petal behind petal. So I'm not worried about every single petal, just the overall feel. I'm not trying to make it look exactly what I'm drawing. I just getting the feel. I think I'm gonna go back because there's a petal back here that's kind of torn a little, so it has a nice line. You can go even slower than I'm going. I'm going a little faster than I might usually draw. Coming around. Now, if you're really going to go back and do more than just a contour, a contour of this, it would take a long time. So that's why I am excited to do the next close-up activity because we can get more detail without worrying about the whole flower. So other than just quickly lifting my pen, I'm trying to keep it on the paper the whole time. Just noticing the lines. Some of these petals are split. They're on top of each other here. I'm actually noticing that I'm not looking at my paper as much as I usually do. So this is kind of turning into a blind contour drawing. Unintentionally. I'm just kind of into looking at all the shapes here. Okay, yeah, this has actually turned into a plain contour drawing, and now I'm just really looking at the flower. Yeah, I find it very relaxing, just letting it go. So here's my flower. You can see where I was starting to look and then where I kind of let it turn into a blind contour. We've got the outline, the idea of the petals. And now what I'm going to do is I feel like I've loosened up a little. I've taken the focus off drawing something that looks exactly like it should, realistic drawing, and made it into just a way to focus on something and relax. So now I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to give myself a frame. I'm going to just draw a little frame. I'm going to give myself a square. And I'm going to think about this square as my little close-up box. I'm going to take my hands here and I'm going to look at this flower again. And I am going to decide that I want to focus, zoom in on a portion of it, like the little tiny petals. You can see, I think are pretty interesting, where they start curling in like that, and the center, and also maybe a portion of the bigger petals. So I'm gonna think about this little frame as my close-up magnifying box, where I'm going to draw just the little part that I decide. So I'm going to, you can, if you're trying to decide what you want to draw close up, if there's something that you are looking at and you're picking the most interesting part of it for a close-up drawing, you can take your hands, make just like a little square and focus in, kind of like a little frame, to just focus in and pick an area, black out the other parts. You can do this with, artists make little viewfinders all the time to help you frame your composition, what you're going to draw. So I've decided that I'm going to just pick one little area, and I'm going to think of it kind of like a doodle, like just think of it as doodling lines. There are interesting lines in here, like I had pointed out, where all these little tiny flowers are. I'm not really worried about making it look just like this flower, but I'm really just going to focus on the lines, and I'm going to think of them more as a pattern, like if I were just doodling a pattern in the margin of my notes while I was in a class. I'm going to think about really focusing on what the pattern is. You could do this with the bristles in this brush, really just thinking about each individual bristle. You could just focus in on that one area and really just look at the lines and just pay attention to the pattern of the lines and draw the lines over and over. So any object, it doesn't have to be a beautiful object to find an interesting pattern to doodle draw. So I'm going to tip down again. And now we've warmed up by just taking the pressure off of it, of looking at the objects as something that we are drawing that is realistic. And we've turned it into just a loosening up, relaxing activity. Now we're going to go in close and do the same thing. Look at the lines that you see. So I'm going to start with the middle, and if I notice, I'll show you some of the tiny little petals have fallen off and are on the center. So I'm going to start with that and just look at the shape of those lines. And that's all I'm really going to be worried about. So I've got the center of my flower, and I'm going to frame it. So I'm going to have the center in the corner of my box, because that's the part. Like a circle, and then I'm looking at just the lines, the tiny, picking up my pencil or pen for this one. And it's going to be so close up, so if I make a mistake just like the other ones, it won't matter. It's more just about noticing the lines. So these little petals that have fallen off are kind of like close up, like shape of macaroni. pasta. So I'm just focused on making those. I think there's one here. And then the petals start curving in and covering. So I'm just thinking about the pattern. It's irregular, not every petal is exactly in the same place. They're curved in. Now this little tiny box, depending on what your object is that you're drawing and how detailed it is, or how long you want to look at every single line, if you're looking at a paintbrush or a toothbrush or any everyday object, it could take a long time to really notice and really record the pattern and the little lines. So these petals curve in. Then there's some pollen sticking up. And those are tiny little lines here. And then in between them, there's more curved petals. And there's layering. They go different directions as well. I think I'm going to do a quick outline of some of them, then go back to filling in. Some kind of come up like this, curve over. Pattern is really just pointy tipped ovals layered on top of each other, going in all different directions. Then as you get further away from the center, the ovals get bigger. And as you can see, as I'm working here, you might get the sense that's the center of the flower as I continue building it, but it doesn't have to look exactly like it. I'm just worried about the shapes I'm seeing, trying to record what I see, and it might not be exactly like that, but I'm pausing and noticing, not rushing. I'm giving myself a little downtime. So whatever objects you've decided to draw today, you can continue and work on them. Go back to just thinking about the outline, the blind contours, just thinking about focusing on looking and not worrying about how your drawing turns out. Really taking the pressure and the judgment off of drawing and making it more just a way to relax for a minute. I could probably just keep going. I don't know how many petals you need to watch me draw. So I tip up my camera here. I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope you've had a chance to relax and take a break from whatever stressful thing you've been doing to prepare for finals or get ready for the holidays or just your everyday routine. And you have another tool for ways to relax and unwind. So thank you so much and have a wonderful night.